Who do you think is the winner of the whole deadline? I think there's two teams in my mind.
I
Winners?
think, yeah, I don't know if I have a winner. All the moves were like for those role player type of pieces.
I like what the Knicks and the Mavericks did.
The
First,
Mavericks, I think they did really
Average
well.
did well.
But
like
yeah,
Gafford was not on my radar to be moved at all, and I think
What they
that's a
needed to.
great big to just let Lively grow into his role. They got PJ Washington, which I don't know really how it fits, but maybe I think they hated Grant Williams, so that's hilarious. Um,
So I think PJ Washington fits more than people realize because it
yes,
wasn't like he was having a bad season in Charlotte,
yeah.
mind you. And all
Superstar.
this is what Dallas did. Not only did Dallas get bigger, right, as a team, but you also brought in these two-way players. You
Mhm.
brought in a two-way center that you can now start essentially, and you still have a Lively coming off your bench now, but you
Yeah,
also have a PJ Washington who, even if he's not starting for you, that's another two-way player. That's another defender you can throw
yeah,
at people, and
Giving you 15 a night.
they've become way more balanced. So while you now have two of the most dynamic scorers in the league, not only do you have scorers around them, lob threats, shooters, whatever the case may be, you now have a more balanced defense that takes even less even more pressure off of Kyrie and Luca. So in terms of
yeah.
how the West is shaping up, I think they put themselves in a prime position to make things very interesting. I am not calling them a contender at this point in time,
No,
but depending on seeding, depending on matchups, depending on their health and how they look come late March, April, I don't think they're going to be teams. I They potentially won't be in the play-in. I
yeah,
Yeah,
think I think that's
yeah.
how good they got. They potentially may not be in the play-in.
it's crazy.
Yeah. So
I
that
think
they're
with them,
winners. Knicks are
I think,
winners too.
yeah.
Knicks are winners.
Bojan, Bojan, he's been trying to go to a contender for years, and I think now it's like they're that. I think the scariest middling team that there is. I think they're the scariest, like 3-4 out of the East. The West,
So
I mean, the West is different. The 3-4 out there is, you know,
3-4 could be the 1-2 out west right now. So,
yeah, yeah. Like I
but
don't know. I think they look nice. Like they have the team comp to make something work. They get bigger too. Like they got rid of Fournier, who was rotting on their bench. Quinn Grimes, he was due to go somewhere else. But they get a player in Alec Burks that knows the system already, and then Bojan that's just coming in just to stretch and shoot. Like I don't know, it's less shots for Julius Randle, right? That's a win. It's a
let's
huge
hope.
win,
Let's hope. Let's
right?
hope he still could shoot them out of a series. You never know.
They're
Um,
getting more guys. They're getting more guys to take some. Oof.
I the Knicks is such an interesting case because honestly, the Cavs look more dangerous this year than they did last year. And
Hmm.
I think if they were to play the Knicks again in this playoffs, that'd be a great matchup.
Yeah.
Just side note. But for the Knicks, you say middling team, and it's so weird because the Knicks aren't really a middle of the pack team. They haven't really been playing since a middle of the pack team since the OG trade. I wouldn't say they are a contender, but they are in that weird space, like in between middling team and contender. Like they're too good to be considered. Like just to me, they
That
look.
that's what I mean by it, where it's like they're in between, like
Yeah,
really like, oh, we gotta watch out for the Knicks. And
but
like
They don't scare me.
so that's what I was gonna ask.
they don't scare me either.
How dangerous are they? Because they have a great team comp, right? They have talent. I think a lot of people still have a question mark on whether Brunson can be your leader, the guy. And it's not a knock on his talent, but I just think in the way the league is today, if Brunson is your best player, which he is on the Knicks, can he do it? I think that if since they are in the East, that's what makes it interesting because
Yeah.
they can sneak a lot of teams in the East. But this Knicks team in the West wouldn't be any different to me than I still wouldn't take this Knicks team over the top four teams in the West currently. So I'm not taking them over Minnesota. I'm not taking them over Denver. I'm not taking them over the Thunder, and I'm not taking them over the Clippers right now. Granted, who knows what's gonna happen with the Clippers? They're the Clippers. But as things currently stand, I'm not taking the Knicks over those 4 teams. Then even when you get into the Suns, Pelicans, Mavs, Kings, like they're all still right on par, right? You know what I'm saying? So like it's because it's the East, they could probably sneak a team or two and make things interesting. But I don't think that in the grand scheme of the league that makes them dangerous. So I don't know. It's an interesting tale. It's an interesting tale.
I would put the Knicks over the Pelicans. However, in the East, I'm more afraid of the Pacers. I'm just being honest. I'm more afraid of what the Pacers can do in the playoffs than I am of the Knicks.
I personally oppose that. That might be the first time I've ever disagreed with you in my life.
I welcome that.
That's
For all
because
many
you're a
reasons.
heavy Brunson fan, though.
Well, no, not even. I love Halliburton. I just think that the Knicks game translates into playoff ball better than the Pacers.
I
Just
agree.
strictly from what Halliburton has said in the past, where he's like, "Coach wants me to slow down and play ball. I don't know," and I'm like, "Boy, you better," because in the playoffs, that's literally the time. That's literally the only time you need to do it. And I think they have, albeit a little bit of experience the Knicks do, and I feel like the Pacers have gotten a taste with like a plan, but like a 7-game series where they got to adjust to a team, you know, denying Halliburton the ball on entry. Like they're learning his tendencies game after game. I think that might be that next step for him to take, and I hope he can take that challenge this year. But I feel like Brunson has a bit more experience at that level, and we'll see what happens in the series. I want to see that series too. Either that them two go at it, or yeah, repeat of Knicks Cavs. That'd be nice.
Good point. And I could be riding the high of how well they played during the in-season tournament, but it just feel like they hit another notch for me. And so that's why I feel like they could carry their game into the playoffs and it would translate well, especially if they get a play-in seed and they kind of have those games under their belt heading into a 7-game series.
Yeah,
The Pacers are scary, in my opinion.
fair.
Hey,
Who did they get back in that Buddy trade?
They got Doug McDermott. They got 3 second-round picks
good.
and
I like Doug,
Marcus, Marcus Morris.
and I like Marcus.
They're buying him out, I think. I
Okay.
think they're buying Marcus out. But the key to the Pacers transitioning their game to the playoffs is Siakam. And because of that, I think the transition won't be as difficult, Gail, as we might be initially thinking.
He'll be
Because
used to it.
even if they do that to Halliburton, Siakam can play your one. Siakam can be your one if you need him to be, if you're going to deny Halliburton. So depending on how a team adjusts to that, that might allow for the Pacers to figure out how do we play our game into half court, right? Because they're still dynamic, right? All the talent is still there. And I think you can afford to lose a Buddy Hield because you now have a Siakam that obviously isn't the shooter that Buddy is, but then you get McDermott, and so you still have all the skills from a team perspective. But that transition, putting it into perspective, I don't know if that makes them scarier. But if they do find a way to quickly transition that style of play to the playoffs, yeah, it's gonna be really interesting. It's gonna be
And
really
they have Furkan Korkmaz. Korkmaz.
yeah. So they still have shooters.